Never seen this.
Hello, welcome to the Escape Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe of movies. I am Brandon.
I'm Josh.
And today we'll be discussing the 1982 cinematic slab of beef known as Conan the Barbarian. But before that, a few short statements on Arrested Development, Solo, the Star Wars movie that just came out. And before those, Power Rangers. Now, Josh, you were just telling me you watched Power Rangers, the new one from what, 2016 or something like that?
Last year, 17.
Okay, what'd you think of that?
I didn't like it.
I heard some weird things about it, and didn't necessarily sound good, but they kind of made me intrigued to see it. So you didn't like it?
No, it tried way too hard to get you to care about the people, the characters, you know. They were all, like, emotional and, you know, about things that were happening. It was just like, you guys kind of just met, like, 2 days ago, and I don't know, they tried too hard to work in, like, key phrases of, like, aye, and it's morphin' time, and, you know, just make my monster grow. It just sounded really cheesy, and I don't know, it just...
What'd you like about it, if anything?
I actually kind of liked Rita.
Oh, what's that actress's name?
Hold on, Elizabeth...
Banks,
yes, Elizabeth Banks. I thought she did pretty good, actually.
Because
I'm
a
a
fan.
She wasn't as serious. Like, she seemed to be, I don't know, just not as ridiculous. Like, I think the kids were trying too hard, like...
The kids are trying hard, and she was just
you know,
having
and
fun.
they're giving... It's kind of like the Breakfast Club meets Power Rangers, where, like, they're in detention, and they're all, like, troubled youths, and, you know, like, I got problems at home with this, and, you know, this and that, and Mom and Dad don't trust me, and I don't know, it was just trying too hard to get you to care about them, and, yeah, it was just kind of silly.
Yeah, I like Elizabeth Banks. I think she's a fun actress. I've seen her in a lot of, like, goofier stuff. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I had heard about it, what was the deal with Krispy Kreme?
So basically, when... I guess it was a ship, Zordon ship or whatever, when they came to Earth, like however many thousands or millions or whatever years ago, and they hit the place that they hit, obviously in the future, it became Angel Grove. And where there's some kind of crystal or some kind of energy source that's buried in the Earth, and it just so happened to be that that's where the Krispy Kreme was built. So it was just kind of a landmark that showed where the thing was in the ground.
Was there anything more to the Krispy Kreme than that?
I mean,
because I had heard
they were
that,
trying to make it funny. It was supposed to be like funny, like, oh, protect Krispy Kreme. We gotta get to the Krispy Kreme.
I heard that they took like product placement to a ridiculous level.
Nothing like Man of Steel. I still say that was worse, but
why? What was in that? I can't remember.
Everything. IHOP, Home Depot. You know, they're just constantly throwing each other around in different restaurants and types of stores.
I have blocked most of that movie out of my head.
Yeah, it was just supposed to be. That was another thing. Yeah, they were just trying to make it funny, like when they're talking. But that wasn't to me the worst part. The worst part was just their over dramatic acting about how pivotal everything is, and it's my team, and I let them down, and you know. I don't know.
Well, we've hit a new record. Usually takes me about halfway through the podcast to want a donut. So, I'm there now. Solo. Solo just came out. We have not seen it yet.
I have not.
Along with many, many other people, apparently.
I'm willing to see it. I'm not dying to see it, but I'm willing to give anything a shot.
Well, the news right now is coming out that it had a not so great opening weekend. I think it was in the mid-80s. Mm-hmm. $80 million.
Okay.
And you were saying just now that it had a big drop-off.
I was looking up on Rotten Tomatoes. It still has for the audience, I think it's like 60-something. Mm-hmm. And then for the critics, it's 70-something. So, I mean, it's still pretty decent.
But as far as ticket sales go?
Oh, that I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. Actually, I saw a review of it, and they made it sound like it wasn't so bad. There are parts of it that sounded interesting. Like, I think it actually kind of looked okay. It's just I'm tired of Star Wars. I'm burnt out. I might see it when it comes out for home video.
Okay.
I don't plan on going to the theater to see it. In fact, I went yesterday to go see Deadpool again.
See, Brittany and I, we don't get to get out too much, so she was just talking about now that her sister's visiting, we might try to pawn the boy off to her so we can go out, and she was saying something about maybe seeing Avengers, even though I still haven't seen Black Panther, but if for whatever reason we had to see Solo, I would be fine with that, just not...
I don't think you need to see Black Panther to see Avengers. Like, certain things will make a little bit more sense to you, but it's not really that big of a deal. I think it might still... Well, it's out on video now, so maybe I can get it and you guys can watch it or something.
Do it.
Okay. So anyway, Arrested Development. Did you start rewatching it?
I actually did. Yeah, I think I'm on episode like 9 or 10.
On what season? The first?
1. I started all over because I only watched the whole thing once through. I'm at the point where he meets the lawyer. She's blind.
Yeah, that show has a ton of rewatchability for me. So
Okay.
I've gone through the whole series several times. The 5th season just came out, I think last weekend, and
Yeah.
I watched it. It's actually split up into 2 parts. So the first 8 episodes are available now, and I think however many more episodes they have, probably another 8. Yeah, and I don't know. That's kind of weird for Netflix to do that.
It is kind of weird. Let me ask you this. Season 4. So it originally was released. Then they kind of did the remix or whatever they're calling it, rehash of it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still watch it in that form if you wanted to? Because when I looked, it looks like it's totally removed.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
I have a buddy that said he was able to get to it somehow, and I'll have to ask him again.
So they don't really want you to, though. Kind of.
I don't think they want you to. I think the remix it improved upon. There's a couple of jokes that kind of drop off, but the remix of season 4 made season 4 a lot better.
See, I stopped somewhere. No, actually, I got through 3. I did get on 4. That's right. I lost interest in 4. And
Well, when you're watching 3, keep in mind that they knew they were doomed at that point. So
see, I thought 3 wasn't nearly as good. I thought I remember
That's
liking
why,
the first 2 were good. The third one I was like, but I still went through it.
because
and then
they
when I
had
got to the
moved
fourth,
they had moved the show around so much due to like
Yeah.
a few factors. One of the big ones though was Family Guy, and you'll even notice in the 3rd season
What does Family Guy have to do with it?
the Fox had canceled Family Guy, but then they brought it back. And when they brought it back, they had to move other shows to bring it back. So instead of sticking with their really good shows like Arrested Development and
Okay.
Futurama, they're like, let's make room for more Family Guy.
Gotcha.
Family Guy's still around, I guess. So I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
but
sure, no, it is.
but you know, it's sad when you see a show that's just okay get
Okay.
as a catalyst. I don't know. It just sucks. Anyway, so like when you're watching season 3, like they'll make jokes and stuff. They knew they were going down, so all the plans they had for 3, they had to like hurry up and change everything so that way they can wrap the show up.
I see.
So you'll notice jokes like one of the episodes is all about saving the Bluth family, and you'll notice Ron Howard even talks about getting a show on HBO or Showtime because they were trying to get somebody to pick the show
Yeah.
up.
I actually just ran across the part. I thought it was pretty cool when Henry Winkler, their lawyer, he's
In the bathroom?
he's in the bathroom.
Yeah.
He's about to go comb his hair, and he kind of looks. He's like,
Hey.
I got it." I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and they do things like that. They acknowledge like the actors' other previous works. and-
Right. Like probably a Charles in Charge one, I'm guessing.
Yeah, when they I think it's season 4 where Bob Blah Blah shows
Yeah.
up again and he's
Okay.
doing something, and Henry Winkler was accused of sneaking into an elementary school or something like that
Okay.
through a gate, and he said he couldn't reach the handle and he called it the Chachi.
Ah.
And when they first show Bob Blah Blah, he says that he was brought in because he was younger and he made more sense to younger audiences. Kind of
Gotcha.
talking about when
Yeah.
they brought Chachi in
Right.
to Happy Days. Anyway, there's a lot of that stuff. Arrested Development season 5 for me started off kind of weird. It got better as it went, but it just felt weird. In season 4, it felt like they had the writers there and not the actors. And
Yeah.
now it almost feels the other way around.
Okay.
But I need to rewatch it a couple more times because I didn't pay the closest attention to it.
Are they talking about a 6 already, or is it kind of just see where this goes kind of thing?
Well, I don't know, because when they brought it back, that was in 2013. It's already been 5 years for them to make another one for
From
Netflix.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know what the exact plan is.
Gotcha.
I guess we'll find out after the second half of 5. But
Okay.
I still love the show. It's one of my favorite shows. If anybody out there hasn't checked it out yet, do yourself a favor, get on Netflix and just watch it. It's a short series, especially those first 3 seasons, so you should be all set. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
Nothing I can think of.
All right, Conan the Barbarian. You've never seen it until now.
Not all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces of it.
All right. So,
There were certain things I always remembered from it, but no, this is the first complete watching of it.
the synopsis for Conan the Barbarian is: a barbarian warrior sets off to avenge his parents and his tribe, whom were slain by an evil sorcerer and his henchmen when he was a boy. That's the synopsis.
Yeah, sure.
It was directed by John Milius. Are you familiar with him at all?
No.
I wasn't really too much either. I looked it up, and he hasn't, as far as directing goes, he hasn't done a lot. He wrote a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He wrote Conan the Barbarian along with Oliver Stone. He also wrote and directed Red Dawn.
Okay. I was not impressed with that movie.
He's listed as a writer for Dirty Harry,
Okay.
Jaws, Apocalypse Now, The Hunt for Red October, Geronimo. That title is actually longer, but I shortened it to just Geronimo.
Okay.
And Clear and Present Danger.
Okay.
So he's written some stuff.
Yeah.
The movie was released in 1982 on a budget of $16 million. It grossed $130 million at the box office, and it's based on stories by Robert E. Howard, a pulp fiction writer of the 1930s. Mm-hmm. Roger Ebert gave the film 3 out of 4 stars.
Okay.
I took a quote out of his article that he wrote about the film. The movie is a triumph of production design, set decorations, special effects, and makeup. At a time when most of the big box office winners display state-of-the-art technology, Conan ranks right up there with the best. Ron Cobb, the sometime underground cartoonist who did the production design on this film and on Alien, supervises an effort in which the individual frames actually do look like the blow-ups of panels from Marvel Comics' Conan books. Since this Conan could have so easily looked ridiculous, that's an accomplishment.
Okay.
I actually looked up, and you helped me with this too, inflation calculator. $16 million in 1982 in 2017 would have been about $41 million.
Okay.
So the budget wasn't super high. Especially because I think the normal budget for a big blockbuster movie nowadays is between 100 and 150 million.
See, I thought the effects were okay. Like the first scene, when he's telling his son the story, there's this mountains and sky or whatever behind him. I didn't think that looked too great, but I did think the snake looked all right. Not the first snake, the snake that he kills. What?
Nothing.
Okay. The effect of him turning into a snake was okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean when his face started morphing a little bit, it was just okay. But I thought the snake that attacks Conan when he's stealing the ruby. I
was pretty impressed by the special effects. Thinking about especially the time that it came out in 1982, and then the thing that really impressed me a lot were things like he said, like the costume design and the sets and the locations. The locations are awesome in this movie. I don't know exactly where all they filmed. I didn't see that while I was looking through my stuff, but it had to have been in at least a few different places. And also, I noticed that there were a lot of extras in this movie. Mm-hmm. I'll get to that in a minute. Are you familiar? Have you watched too many sword and sandal movies? They call them.
I've seen some. I've seen the original Clash of the Titans.
Jason and the Argonauts.
I can't remember if I've seen that one all the way through.
All right. Well,
I know a lot of them, but I don't know if I actually watched them.
It's a genre that really isn't around too much anymore, and this is one of the bigger ones. There were a lot of copycat movies that came out in the 80s because of Conan, and it made a lot of money. 130 million in 1982 translates to about 330 million now. So on a small budget of what would have been 41 million today, that's huge.
Right.
So they made a ton of money off of it, and you could tell they put a lot of work into it. As a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, I've seen a lot of really bad sword and sandal movies.
Right.
One of the themes that runs in a lot of these movies are really cheesy looking helmets. Mm-hmm. And they had them in this too, but they didn't look nearly as bad. They look like they were actual functional helmets.
Yeah.
I've seen some that look so silly. They move around because they're made out of rubber and plastic and paper mache and all that stuff. And they usually have some kind of silly design on them, like a swan or something nutty. Usually the music is bad, the costumes are bad. So I was pretty impressed by this. It was definitely a step up from a lot of those other movies.
You want to hit us up with some trivia?
Yeah, let's do trivia. Next. Conan trivia. There was a ton of trivia for this, and we could go so deep into some of this, but I just picked out 10 things. Okay. So, here we go. Arnold had weapons training, martial arts training, and horse riding lessons from specialists. He trained with an 11-pound broadsword 2 hours a day for 3 months. He also learned climbing techniques and how to fall and roll and jump from 15 feet in the air. Mm-hmm. All of it was videotaped by the director. So somewhere out there's a videotape.
Yeah, I noticed the one scene where he is using the sword. You could tell it was actually him. There wasn't no cuts in any way. It's
pretty impressive. I think I actually even read that it was hard to find body doubles for him and the actress in the movie, so they just did all their own stunts.
Okay.
really impressive because this is like Arnold's first movie.
Yeah, basically, I know he did Hercules in New York.
One of the things I was looking for when we were watching this was to see like how horrible his acting would be and how terrible his accent would be. It wasn't really.
Obviously he's always going to have that thick accent, but I actually felt like he's more understandable in, like, by the time you get to, like, Terminator and stuff like that.
His accent was a little thicker in this, but considering it was his first role, I think he did a really good job. Director John Milius said that the dogs they used in the film were very unfriendly and dangerous. And here's a quote from him. When you had these dogs chasing Arnold Schwarzenegger and he's actually running for his life because he knew how dangerous the dogs were and that they even attacked their trainer. And when I was going through trivia notes, there were some issues with the dogs that came up.
Okay.
He actually got injured while running away from the dogs.
Okay.
James Earl Jones was a last-minute addition to the cast because of his commitments on Broadway. He and Arnold Schwarzenegger became friends on set. Arnold helped him with staying in shape, and Jones and Max von Sydow both coached Arnold in acting.
Okay.
Arnold began growing his hair long for the film in 1979, so it wasn't a wig.
Wow. That's a long time. It took him that long to get that amount of hair?
I guess. Well, think about it. That sounds about right to me. How long do you think it'd take you to get your hair
I don't know.
It was intended to start a franchise with at least 4 sequels, and Arnold had to commit to all of them.
Wow.
200 workers built the sets on in a large warehouse outside Madrid. The production crew were made up of people from Italy, England, the U.S., and Spain. 1,500 extras were employed, and the score was performed by a 90-piece orchestra and 24-member choir singing mock Latin.
Okay.
I noticed especially towards the end, like when he gets to the cult, just how many people are out there is insane. I noted that when I was watching the movie that there's so many extras. Arnold Schwarzenegger was entitled to 5% of the film's profits, so he raked it in on this movie. The snake cult of Thulsa Doom is modeled after... Okay, I'm going to need you to say this word for me.
Oh, gee.
Take a look at this. That word right there. How do you say that?
Is that an E? Is that E?
This is my horrible handwriting.
Yeah, is that what it is? An E-L-L?
So here, I'll spell it for you. Flagellants. Flagellants. But it sounds like flatulence, and I thought you'd get a kick out of that. Anyway, that was a cult that arose in Germany at the time of the Plague of the Black Death in mid-14th century.
Huh.
Arnold was the first and only choice to play Conan.
Makes sense.
And of course, these are based on the Pulp Fiction books. I don't really know anything about them. I guess they were supposed to take place in some fictional time period around 10,000 BC.
Okay.
I had also read that I think Oliver Stone wanted to set the film in a distant future.
Okay.
So post-apocalyptic.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have changed the film too much, but just that fact alone is kind of...
Well, yeah, it would be using guns and stuff instead, right?
There's a movie called Teenage Caveman, B-movie from the 50s, I believe, and the whole movie, you see, it's called Teenage Caveman, and you have all these guys running around wearing the furs, and, you know, they're fighting large beasts and stuff. In the old version, it was also loosely remade in the early 2000s. No, it was another movie called Teenage Caveman, but it was another like low budget direct to video type thing. It was like a creature feature. Part of some DVD collection. Anyway, the idea of it was like this whole time you think you're looking at BC because they look like caveman. They're battling things that look kind of like dinosaurs. And at the end of the movie, they end up fighting a monster and killing it. It turns out it was a man in a radiation costume or radiation suit. But it looked kind of monstrous the way that they had it set up.
Yeah.
And the guy was just coming to check on like these people and see what was going on, and it was actually the future, and there had been all sorts of war. And in that way, it kind of reminded me of The Village.
There's another movie it reminds me of that I don't want to tell you because I intend to have us watch it, and I didn't realize you didn't know.
Toy Story 3?
Yep.
So we already kind of talked about Arnold a little bit. Everybody should be familiar with Arnold. I don't think I have to go through a list of the movies I've seen with him in it.
List of movies you haven't seen with him in it.
Commando.
Really?
I have not seen Commando yet. It's on my list of movies I need to watch.
Didn't he do like something around, what's it, Around the World in 80 Days or something? Wasn't he in one of those?
I don't know about that.
And he was in Junior.
Mm-hmm. With his brother, Danny DeVito?
Yep. And what else was he in that was kind of goofy? Jingle All the Way. I never saw that one.
That's a little pet favorite of mine.
Okay. All right.
With Sinbad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arnold, he's never really been known as greatest actor. I really don't think he was bad in this, though. Like, I was really surprised that he was as good as he was.
Honestly, there wasn't a lot of talking.
No, that helped, and I'm sure that was on
Most
purpose.
of it was through narration.
They actually said that his accent helped, or I think Roger Ebert did.
Okay.
He said that he appreciated the accent more because it would have made sense, something taking place. Yeah. There was no America or anything back then, so if you had a big American playing the role.
Gotcha.
Are there any notes about Arnold you wanted to bring up?
Nothing I can think
Anything
of
you
specifically
noticed?
to him. No.
What about when he was hanging on that tree and he was hallucinating?
That, this movie had a lot of weird stuff where just things were kind of happening, not much talking, and then eventually the narrator would kind of tell you something, but like it was just strange in that way to me.
My background with this movie, because you said you had never seen it before and
Correct.
you'd only heard of it.
Well, I've seen clips of it.
I had seen the movie maybe twice before.
Okay.
The first time I saw it was with my buddy Chris, and that was in the early 2000s when I worked at Blockbuster.
Okay.
The second time would have been probably like 10 years ago. I just flipped it on and tried to watch it. And I remember both times it seemed like the movie was a little bit confusing to me. This time, not so much.
Okay.
I was able to follow it a little better. So maybe something on repeat viewing
Okay.
you can understand better. James Earl Jones is in this movie.
Yeah, he's another villain in armor and a helmet.
Yeah. I'm familiar with James Earl Jones, obviously from Star Wars, a movie called City Limits, Coming to America, Field of Dreams, The Sandlot, Naked Gun 33 and a Third, and The Lion King. And he's been in a lot of other stuff. I noticed when I was looking at his filmography, he's actually been with Harrison Ford in quite a few things.
I know he was in some of the Jack Ryan movies.
Mm-hmm. Name them. With Harrison Ford.
Okay, the ones with Harrison Ford, I think, were Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games.
Mm-hmm. And he was in both of those?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I think once they got to The Sum of All Fears, which was Ben Affleck's, that character was replaced with Morgan Freeman.
He's a very theatrical actor, the way he speaks.
Yeah.
What's funny is I wrote this down because we got to mention stuff about Michigan.
Yep.
He was born in Mississippi, but he trained to be an actor at the U of M School of Music, Theater, and Dance.
Yeah, I knew he wasn't. I knew he was from Mississippi. But he grew up here, and I think he used to have a stutter.
Oh yeah.
Said, yeah.
Well, I should go to the U of M.
Yeah, I know that he did that documentary for Jurassic Park.
Did he?
Yeah, there's a Jurassic Park documentary you can watch, and he narrates it. Well, actually, he more than narrates it. He's actually there, like in person.
He was born in 1931. He's currently 87. What do you think of him being cast in this role?
Again, I knew he was in it because I had seen enough of it to know he was in it. It seems this movie. What is kind of cool about it, there's a lot of different types of people, so, and it kind of makes sense that they're especially like Euro-Asia kind of area, like Africa, Asia, Europe.
Assuming that this was on Earth, yeah.
They're all right about there, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about the movies. You get to see people from all over and different influences.
Yeah.
It's a big blending area of the world. I thought, especially the first two times I watched it, that he was such an odd choice for the villain in this movie.
Okay.
And I assume that they were kind of on the heels of Star Wars, so they wanted to grab him from that.
Yeah.
I cannot ever see him. It's funny, like I actually kind of laughed to myself a little bit when they said Arnold was keeping him in shape. I'm like, well, he wasn't really in shape to begin with.
No, but he's definitely...
I don't see him...
That was probably the thinnest I've ever seen him. How about that?
Okay, sure. But I don't ever see him really as a guy that's going to be wearing armor and swinging a sword.
Well, I was actually wondering if they had him wear the armor he wears so that when there's big scenes, they can kind of hide that it's not really him doing it.
And he also looked kind of funny with the long hair and the blue eyes.
Yeah, the blue eyes, I think, was to make him kind of... It was like almost like when he was going into his hypnotic,
Well, his eyes did change throughout the movie.
Yeah, which kind of ironic to me. It kind of reminds you of the snake from the Jungle Book when he does his goofy stuff with his eyes and people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the leader of a snake cult in this movie, and I think he works very well as the leader of a cult. He's got that charisma to him. It looks like he could really lead people to drink a bunch of Kool-Aid.
Actually, I thought it was rather interesting, like how they show how much influence he has. Like his mother actually doesn't attack him when he's looking at her.
You're talking about Conan's mother.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she's ready to attack, and then like she actually kind of
he stares at her
the
and she
sword
drops
down.
it. Yeah.
And then like when he has one of his followers literally just jump off a cliff for just to prove
that he could do it. Yeah.
But you know, speaking of the mom, I was actually thinking he was going to take her as a prisoner. Because I was thinking, okay, why is he invading this little village? What's the point?
They don't explain it right away.
No.
They do kind of later.
So basically, I thought maybe he just wanted women. So I was thinking he was going to take her.
Yeah, it was weird that they didn't, like, I can understand just thinking about, like, Viking culture and all that stuff coming in and, like, maybe taking out all the men.
Yeah.
Or taking, you know, whoever they can spare as slaves and selling them off. Well, it's just actually kind of, they did that with a couple people, but not many. They killed just about everybody.
Pretty much it looks like they took all the kids.
Yeah. And I assume that that's what that thing was that they had Conan turning, was to strengthen them up.
Well, you know, but it wasn't there. Isn't there something like that they used to actually, like, they would actually have donkeys,
like a mill?
Yeah, exactly. Like they would have
to
like
make
beast
grain.
of burden.
And
yeah, exactly. I thought it was something like that.
But I didn't see any of that while he was doing that, and it seemed like as he was getting older, people were disappearing. So I assumed what happened.
Eventually he was the only one.
They were feeding them and making them do the manual labor to strengthen them up to make them more valuable as slaves. Would be my guess.
Yeah, that could be because like I was still thinking like, okay, there has to be a purpose for this, and then like he gets sold off, and I was thinking, okay, but if he's technically Doom's property, if you will, he's Doom's slave. Mm-hmm. This guy that's minding the store there just sells him off to the other guy that came, and I was like, you know, isn't that kind of...
How much time do you think passed? Because they took him, he was probably about 11.
If that, I thought he looked like he was 8, but I don't know.
So he was young. He
Okay,
wasn't quite a teenager yet. By the time they sold him, he was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, it was a while. And it wasn't always the same guy there watching him?
That I don't know either.
Well, either way, that's what I know.
This movie has a lot of montage.
Yeah.
A lot of times where they're showing time passing or events, like getting from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. A lot of like the turning of the wheels, one of them. Mm-hmm. Fighting. When he's doing his little gladiator thing.
When they're showing like how he became the person he is. He isn't just a big dummy that swings weapons around.
Yeah, when he gets his friend and he goes running to the new town.
Yeah, they start off, they show him how he became big and strong. Then they show him how he learned how to fight. Then they show him how he learned how to read. Somebody taught him how to read. Mm-hmm. I thought it was kind of funny. They actually had that scene in there where basically they were using him to breed more people.
Yeah, it's kind of...
weird.
It's a little gross and disturbing because like they were just kind of watching them like they were zoo animals. Yeah. And obviously that girl was not for it. Like, you know, she was basically
well, at least he wasn't cruel with her, I guess. But it was disturbing. It was an almost realistic way, and like I can picture stuff like that happening in this world.
Yeah. So he trains up. He becomes like the best of the fighter.
Mm-hmm. They show how he gets a sword and where he gets all his training from.
Right, and then his master just lets him go. And I'm thinking, like, you would
I think he earned his freedom somehow.
See, I watched this a few days ago. Okay, what'd you see that I didn't?
I watched this a few days ago, and I know I'm having trouble remembering some of it. Great podcast. Yeah, I can't remember exactly how he got free, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on any explanation. It seemed like he just came, he just let him go, and he starts pushing him away.
He may have earned it through fighting and stuff like that. Or
possibly.
Were they traveling somewhere and there was a storm, and that's when he ended up getting in that, like, those ruins where he found the sword? I remember the sword was covered in rust.
That's right after he lets him go, and yeah, for whatever reason he ends up there. I don't know how he... Because again, there's not much dialogue, and then you got to wait for the narrator to tell you something, so... I don't know.
Sandal Bergman plays his love interest. Are you familiar with her at all?
No.
I barely am.
Okay. She could be in something that I have seen, and I just didn't realize it was her. But no.
When I went through the filmography, she's not in a whole lot.
Okay.
The only thing that I had seen her in before was Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Okay.
Which is something we may cover at some point.
Isn't that
Roddy Piper? Yeah.
I know of it.
That's a movie. Anyway, so... I guess she was also in Red Sonja, which we'll talk about in a second, too.
Yeah, and I knew of that movie, and for some reason, I thought that was a spinoff. I just recently found out that it has nothing to do with Conan.
The O'Brien?
Yes.
Yeah, she was in Hell Comes to Frogtown. She is 6 feet tall.
Really?
Yep, she's 6 feet tall. She used to say she was 5'12" because no woman should be 6 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a pretty athletic actress, and I thought she fit with Arnold very well. They seemed like they could get along together, those two characters. Yeah. That they would find each other interesting, and it was cool watching them go on their little heist together to sneak into that tower.
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, he's traveling, he finds this, I guess it's a succubus, the female equivalent.
The witch.
Yeah, I guess. That happened for whatever reason, and so he kind of kicks her out, stays in her house. When he comes out the next day, he finds, I guess there was a guy chained behind her house the whole time.
The thief.
Yeah, so what I thought was funny is he makes friends so fast. Mm-hmm. That guy, instant friends. The girl, instant friends with the other guy.
You're talking about Conan?
Yeah. Everyone he meets, he's like, as if they knew each other forever. And it was weird. They go to this village, and they eventually, determine that, okay, we're going to go into this tower and do whatever. She's just there. She is sneaking around, but for whatever reason, she reveals herself to them because she doesn't have no idea who they are. Like, I thought it's funny. I think
she was also a thief, and she wanted to sneak into that tower to steal things.
Right, but what I'm getting at is she sees two guys coming her way. She's kind of hidden in the shadows, so she could have, get the jump on them. But for whatever reason, she just walks out of the shadows to confront them, and then they instantly are all cool with each other and decide to help each other. And I was just like, what is? It didn't make sense to me, how...
I didn't think about it too much. It didn't feel odd to me, but I can see your point.
One thing I will say is, when they showed him going into the town, because, he is the hero, and a lot of, those 80s movies, it seems like a lot of times the hero... I would use Commando as an example, but, you didn't see it. But basically, it's he's almost bulletproof, and anything he does works, and he's
you could just say any Arnold movie.
Yeah, but what I thought was funny is they show a lot of him being confused or surprised or unsure of things because he's supposed to have lived a slave life, so when he gets out in the real world he doesn't know stuff. They show when he's eating something and
punches a camel.
Just different things that he does that he hasn't been out in the world, so I was kind of just surprised they showed him being almost naive or uneducated in certain things like that.
Did you like Sandal Bergman in this role?
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised that she had done her own stunts because to me she actually looks like a stunt woman.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I just found it was funny that they said two words to her and then they're all friends and decide to go into this thing.
Conan is very charismatic. Mako is the name of the actor that played the wizard.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay.
And he was also the narrator of our story.
Yeah.
When I first heard the narrator's voice, I was like, oh, I didn't realize Walter from Tremors was in this movie.
Okay.
I thought it was, I forget his name now, but I thought it was the same actor. Also, the grandpa from Three Ninjas. Okay. They sound very similar.
All right.
That's really the only note. He was in this. He was in Conan the Destroyer, so he's one of the few actors that came back for the sequel.
I believe he was the only one, actually, besides Arnold.
Yeah, okay. Max von Sydow is also in this.
Yes.
Which, that surprised me when I saw his name on the list after I'd watched the movie.
Yeah.
Because I did not realize that was him.
Yeah.
He is the king of this town. They go into the tower, and they... All right, so there's a character. He's the king of this town, the city. He's the lord, whatever.
Yeah.
His daughter has been taken by this cult.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tower in their city that represents the cult. I guess these towers have been popping up everywhere. He said at first they were no big deal. He just thought, oh, another snake cult. Who cares? But they got more and more powerful, and now they're actually a force in this part of the world, and it's spreading.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter's been taken, and once he finds out that Arnold and his two companions have snuck into that tower and basically killed everybody in there,
mm-hmm.
that instead of punishing them, he hires them to go get his daughter.
Yes.
But when you see him, he's got long hair, he's got the big mustache, and he doesn't look... I picture Max von Sydow as kind of a skinnier guy, and he seemed a little. Maybe it was his clothing.
Yeah, I don't think you ever see him stood up.
But he seemed muscly in a way to me, almost like.
Okay.
And I think they even said that in his younger days he was the Conan of his time.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think they said that. I think maybe the narrator said it or something. Anyway, so I didn't even realize that was Max von Sydow.
Okay.
What have you seen Max von Sydow in?
I always think of Flash Gordon.
I knew you were going to say
Which is the DC comic character that runs really fast.
Correct.
Take that, Dave.
I'm familiar with him from The Exorcist.
Okay.
Never Say Never Again, which is the unofficial James Bond movie that was a remake of an older James Bond movie, also starring Sean Connery. He played Blofeld, the main villain.
Okay.
He was in Ghostbusters too, as the voice of Vigo, the Carpathian.
I can hear that now.
He was in Minority Report, Shutter Island, the Wolfman remake from 2010, The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought he was the narrator of The Dark Crystal, but you haven't seen it. But
all the way through.
It sounds just like him, but it's somebody else.
Half of it.
He's been in a ton of stuff. He's been in over 100 movies. Is there anything you can think of that I'm leaving out? Because that's just the stuff I've seen.
Because I only think of Flash Gordon.
He's been in lots of stuff.
Yeah.
He's one of those people with a huge filmography.
Yeah.
And then I guess there's not too much to say about him in this movie because he was only in for the one scene, basically.
Right.
All right, so the tower. You had a question about the tower.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that Conan was hoping that Jones would maybe be in there, so he could get him. But once they get in there, for whatever reason, I didn't get it because they get in there and then he decides to steal this ruby, and I was like, okay, we haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't heard of this ruby. Was there something?
I think that's probably what she was after.
Okay, but then they didn't have her. Like, you'd think she would have said, hey, go down there and get this ruby. Because I think she even says, like, she tells them to go down there, but she didn't tell them to do anything specifically. Well, he goes down there, he finds this ruby to get it, and then, like, there's this giant snake, and I thought, like, how can you tell that the snake was... I would never feel that comfortable to get close to something that large. Where it's
that was a cool scene, by the way.
It's always open. You can't tell if it's asleep or whatever.
Yeah, it was weird.
And... I don't know. Just thought that was kind of like it just didn't. I didn't follow exactly why.
All right, this is what I think was happening with that scene. So you had these three different people. The one guy with the first thief, the guy, he was just there because he was buddies with Conan. It's like you saved
him. Yeah,
I'm gonna hang out with you. The girl noticed that they were there, and she probably thought, well, maybe I can use some help getting in here and getting what I need. These guys are already gonna go in there. I'll use them. They can do all the hard work. I'll take the stuff, even though she ended up fighting a lot, too.
Honestly, yeah, they killed the snake. She did all the fighting of people.
But I think maybe had the three of them not teamed up, it wouldn't have been successful for any of them. I think that Conan's plan wasn't necessarily to kill James Earl Jones, but like, hey, I'll hit this tower and get my revenge this way. And then the opportunity ended up presenting itself through Max von Sydow. Like, yeah, you go get this guy.
Well, how did the king find out what they did? They snuck out. As far as I know, they didn't tell anybody. And then the king...
I'm sure somebody that was in there ran off and word spread.
I guess. I just... See, a lot of that kind of stuff, it just seemed very coincidental.
Because there were innocent people in there, too. Just people that were sucked into the cult. And once Conan started killing people... They all spread and fled. Okay. So I don't even think he killed any of like the regular people that were in there, just all the soldiers, basically.
Could be. Did you find that the two main guys, Doom's main guys, they looked like English metal rocker guys. They looked like they were in Spinal Tap or something.
Well, one of them, I didn't recognize him at first, but his name is William Smith.
Okay.
Not the fresh Will Smith.
Yeah.
But William Smith, and he's been in, a handful of stuff. I've seen him in some like 70s and 80s stuff. He's a big guy.
I know one of them was a football player.
The other one was a football player, the one with the hammer. Which I thought that
American football player.
I thought that hammer was pretty sweet.
Okay.
Actually, I think it was the one that was with the hammer that was a football player. But William Smith, he's been in stuff. I recognize him from, he was in an episode or two of the A-Team.
Okay.
You watched a lot of the A-Team?
When I was a kid, yeah.
There was an episode where I guess he was buddies with Mr. T, and he got kidnapped or something like that, and he was being held in prison.
Okay.
And the warden of this prison was forcing the inmates to fight each other, and the people would bet on the fights.
Okay.
And they'd basically be fights to the death.
Gotcha.
So they had Mr. T get arrested, go to that same prison, show off his fighting skills, so that he would put him in the underground fighting circuit, and that way they can bust him all.
Gotcha.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember what else I've seen him in, but I've seen him in a few things.
Yeah, I don't know. Just something about the way they look. They look like English late 70s, early 80s, like metal rock bands, like Spinal Tap. Which I know Spinal Tap's a joke band, but they just had that look.
It was probably the mustaches,
yeah,
like the style.
Like the bangs and like the straight hair.
I call that the medieval mullet.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in so many of these types of movies, and it drives me nuts. Like, I don't even think that the people from the Dark Ages were that stupid to have that dumb of a haircut. It's where basically you have bangs, but they're cut off, and the rest of your hair is long.
Yeah.
And it looks so stupid, and I see it in everything medieval. It drives me nuts.
So.
Rant.
I think this movie could have used some more sex. Yeah, it was just pretty dry. Just nothing to hold on to.
You should watch the remake.
I bet. No, really. Some of the, like, I mean, I'm sure there's movies that have more, but I was like, dang, like.
You're being serious?
I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking about needing more sex. I was trying to be sarcastic. Yeah, I was just saying, like, I know there's movies that have it worse, but like some of the stuff I was like, gee.
Yeah, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Even the G-rated movies had boobs in them. Speaking of the remake, you're not familiar with the remake at all either, are you?
I know the guy who played Aquaman, Jason something.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, I know he's in it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Oh, that's another thing I know Max von Sydow from. I forgot to write it down. He's in Game of Thrones, as was Jason Momoa.
Oh, okay.
Have
you seen the remake?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I didn't think it was that bad. I got a bunch of negative reviews. I kind of enjoyed it because it was kind of dumb and mindless, but like in a fun way.
Okay.
I'd like to go back and rewatch it, see if my opinion still holds up. But I had fun with it, and I was looking forward to a sequel to it. I thought there might be.
Yeah.
I don't know how much money it made.
Okay.
There were talks of making a sequel all the way up until last year, and not only a sequel to that, but also remaking Red Sonja and another Conan movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I heard about that.
Those were all being...
Conan the Conqueror? I thought I heard a tentative title.
That's one. I think that was going to be the sequel to the other one. There's also Conan the... or something that's like a leader. Conan the King or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, that was going to be the one with Arnold, and all three of those ideas have basically been scrapped right now. Okay. Although they had hired writers for them, they were going to do it.
Okay.
I don't know why, because especially now that like Arnold's free of all the political stuff,
sure,
and he's been going back and retouching a lot of his older franchises.
Besides Terminator, what else has he touched? Older franchises.
His Maid.
All right.
Well, wasn't it... He was in Terminator movies. I thought he was doing something else that he'd done before.
I mean, I heard talk that they were going to do a True Lies sequel, but I don't think that's ever really something that's... I don't know how serious that is.
Maybe I was thinking of the Expendables.
Oh, yeah.
The Expendables.
Yeah. So he goes on this journey. Once the king makes his proposal, he kind of sneaks away during the night. I assume it's because he didn't want to put his new...
Well, this is what it is. The girl... he was with her, and I think they were both digging each other for more than just, a night of passion. She was ready to quit. She's like, we got all these riches now, we're good. Let's go live a happy life somewhere. But the opportunity presented itself to get full revenge on the cult that destroyed his life. So he didn't care about the riches anymore at that point, and I don't think he wanted her to get hurt. He knew it was his journey and his battle that he had to fight. Right.
I'm just saying, I that's what I assumed as well, but I'm just saying there's a lot of stuff they just kind of don't really quite...
You wanted more exposition?
A little more. Like, just some stuff was just, now we're here, now we're there. And, like, especially when he gets to, like, the third friend he meets, and just, like, it was weird there. Ha 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 ha. Ho ho ho. Like, it was just kind of ridiculous. Do you remember when he comes out of his little hut?
Yeah.
And they just start laughing, and I was like, what is happening here? Like, I don't know, it just seemed kind of silly.
I don't know. I felt like I really got the movie this third time around.
Okay.
So it was... I can understand where you're coming from, because I was confused the first two times. I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but it's kind of cool, so I'll keep watching it. was interesting how he kind of tracked them down. I guess he just went to that village to try and blend in until... I don't know if he knew the cult was going to show up there, or maybe that was really close to where they were...
He's riding in the camel. He gets there. He's talking to one of the priests, I guess, and he clearly was sweet on Arnie.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It was, but, I mean, he used it to get the uniform, or the...
that was... The movie has little chunks of subtle humor. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
So yeah, then they're all going to the big ceremony. He's showing his medallion to certain people. And the one guy he shows it to, he actually gives it to him. Now, what was that all about? Do you remember that? They're all like going in like this serpentine type pattern to get to like the temple. And at one point, like someone like almost stops him, like, I need to see your identification almost. He pulls out his medallion. That guy actually takes it from him for whatever reason. Was
that when they arrested him or no?
So yeah, like that's nothing. So then like later they show Spinal Tap's coming up behind him and he's like seated. Everyone's seated and somehow they knew it was him. I didn't get that.
I think James Earl Jones must have heard... Well, he did. He had heard what had happened in the other temple when he killed the big snake, and he was upset about it, so they knew somebody was coming, and they probably got a description of him. And let's face it, Arnold didn't exactly blend in.
He's bigger, I get it.
He's a lot bigger.
But like when everyone's seated, everyone kind of looks the same.
So, and he probably heard that he was looking for him, so they knew he was coming.
I don't know, it seemed funny to me because they just walked up, they knew exactly which one to go up to from the back, and I just thought it was funny they were able to tell which one was him. I get that he's bigger, but I'm saying they're all sitting down with the goofy big white hats and the white robes.
Yeah, they were ready for that UFO and the tail of the comet.
Alright. He gets found out. He crucifies him. So he's on a tree, literally tied to a tree.
I have a hard time watching that scene now without thinking of a GIF.
Okay.
I know
he's
it's
laughing
supposed
crazy,
to be...
or the bird eating the bird.
Well, that was funny too, but no, when he's laughing. No, it's supposed to be pronounced GIF, but I say GIF. Somebody had made one where...
Choosy moms choose GIF.
Yes. Somebody made one where he's hanging from that tree, and he looks over out into the desert, and then he starts laughing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, instead of seeing his friend running towards him, he sees a Kool-Aid man. Okay. It's just something silly. I see that. I picture that every time now.
So he gets rescued. Mm-hmm. He's still alive, but then by the time they get him back to the other guy, I guess he's dead. And they decide to do like this ritual.
He's either dead or very close to it.
He seemed pretty dead at that point. But I mean, he sees the guy coming. He's laughing hysterically. But then by the time they get him back, I guess he died.
I had the impression that he was like on the verge of being dead, and that's why those spirits were going to come for him.
But that's another thing I didn't get. If he's already dead, why are the spirits coming for him?
See, I didn't think he was already dead.
See, I thought he was. Because they wrapped him up like a mummy. They are putting all those markings on him, and I just didn't get that.
I think those were to protect him from the spirits that were going to come.
No, I mean, the markings, I guess that's clearly part of that particular guy's ritual. I wasn't worried about that, but I'm saying it just didn't make sense to me why the demons, or whatever you want to call them, were coming to get him if he had already died, which I pretty much was under the impression he had died. Maybe it just didn't make sense. It seems like they would come to get him when he's about to die, like they're coming to snatch his soul away or something. I don't know.
So he probably wasn't dead then.
I guess not, but they didn't make that clear to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, just a lot of stuff that just happens and I don't get it, and maybe I'm just slow, but I just felt like a lot of stuff they didn't quite... Just things happen, and I guess there's a reason. And so he's back to life, ready to go. They decide to paint each other up. They sneak in, and I thought it was funny. They're serving you can see they're like cutting open people like cattle, and they're like putting it in the big pots. That remind you of anything?
It made me hungry. I wanted some soup.
Remind me of seen or heard the movie Soylent Green?
I know of it, and I understand the plot.
Soylent Green is people, and because you see someone literally pulls out a hand out of the soup, and it's pretty gross.
I saw a picture where somebody had taken a photograph of a Wendy's marquee. You know, they write the stuff underneath their signs out front. And it says, "Our special ingredient is our people." And they took a picture of that sign and then put Charlton Heston's face looking up in horror.
That's funny. So I thought that whole scene, when they snuck in there tiger striped or whatever, I thought that was going to be the final showdown. I thought for sure this is the end of the movie.
Did you feel like it had pacing issues? When it ended, I was ready for it to end. but I didn't feel like the movie was too long.
That happened like twice.
Uh-huh.
There was 2 separate times where I thought for sure, okay, this is the final showdown. And then it went to the next thing, and I was like, okay, this one's the final showdown.
Uh-huh.
And nope. I didn't get that impression. No, I didn't feel like I had pacing problems.
Okay.
Did you?
No, not at all.
So, his girlfriend gets killed. I was surprised. I actually didn't see that coming. I thought that wouldn't happen. And so was it because they were saying she agreed to pay a debt to get him back? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of...
I mean, it's one of those ambiguous things where she happened to die. Well, she's like, okay, well, I said I'd pay the price, so here it is.
Gotcha.
But she could have died anyway.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat the way they did it. I liked the use of magic in this movie, where it wasn't anything silly like Harry Potter, and it wasn't...
Hey, we'll talk about Harry Potter.
It wasn't overdone, and like it could have been really silly with overdone special effects, but... It was done in a more subtle way, and it made it like...
Yeah, there's not really actually that much like supernatural type elements.
It's weird to say grounded in a way, like they did it in a realistic way because it's magic, but like people weren't running around just doing silly things. There was only a couple people in the movie that did anything like that, and the stuff that they did do wasn't super impressive, but it was like, wow, that's...
Did the part where they're at their little like Stonehenge thing, whatever you want to call it, and they start setting up some traps, that remind you of Predator?
Yes, it did. They should have put the camo paint back on for that.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. I like that scene a lot. What's funny is the traps didn't really do a whole lot. They got like one guy.
Yeah. I mean, they showed basically they had like a lot of sharp sticks just to kind of help make it, I guess, harder to get into it.
Probably today with CG, those spikes in the ground would have gotten a lot more people.
Yeah.
But they're just kind of bumping into them and like kind of rolling over them.
Yeah, there was a few times where they'd knock a guy over and he kind of is knocking them out of the way, almost making it clear. I noticed the horse fell too. And I was kind of actually surprised at that because a stuntman, I guess, I mean, it's still a risk, but he can train to fall a certain way and try to, they know what they're doing.
But not so much a horse.
Yeah, a horse, not so much. Yeah.
That's why that's why all the stuntmen name their horses Glue Stick. That scene also reminded me of Braveheart.
The Stonehenge fight? Mm-hmm. What about it?
They had planted those spikes in the ground to take out the horses, basically, in one of the big fight scenes from Braveheart.
It's been a while since I've seen it. But anyway, this is the second point where I think, okay, this is the final showdown, not the other one. And then it's not. And I was like, dang, like, what the crap?
I'd gotten to that point, too. I'm like, well, like, I know they still have to go get James Earl Jones. How much more of this movie is left? But it's almost over at that point.
Yeah. So I was kind of surprised. For whatever reason, I wasn't sure if Jones was a man that could kind of turn himself into a snake. Was he a snake that was turning himself into a man? But I was kind of thought there was going to be some like ending where he's like some kind of snake man monster thing that Conan has to fight.
He did transform himself a couple times.
I only remember once.
Well, he started to do it again, didn't he?
I don't recall that. No. I only think of the time when they're eating their people. And
you know what I wonder too, now that you bring it up, is when they went into the first tower.
Yes. Was that Jones?
And they killed the giant snake. Was it also James Earl Jones, or maybe like another clone? Were there a bunch of James Earl Jones?
See, and that's what I didn't understand too, is like, why were they sacrificing themselves to this particular giant snake? He called it his pet later. Do you remember that? He said, you destroyed my temple, you killed my followers, you killed my pet.
There's a number of mythos you could like attach to that. Like, was he some aspect of some kind of deity or whatever? And like that was just what he looked like.
You know what that reminds me of? Harry Potter. Horcrux. I know you don't know what that's about.
No, I don't know. Explain it to people who are stupid like me.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to tell you. We might eventually watch the Harry Potter.
So somewhere in another dimension or somewhere there is a being, but like this is a part of him. Like this is a little piece of him on Earth. Maybe there's a bunch of them. That's one explanation you can
like I said, I had seen clips of this movie but never actually watched it to this point. I did, however, used to watch Conan the Adventurer, which was a cartoon. And in it, he fought a snake man. His name was like Rathamon or something like that. And they were described in that cartoon as being from another dimension.
Okay. So
you had like the main guy, Rathamon, if I'm saying it correctly, I might not be. And he had like his snake men. And I remember his sword was made from a metal of an asteroid. That's what his father made his sword out of. So basically what he could do is this sword had the ability to vanquish those creatures back to their dimension. So they showed a lot when he would like slice through them, they would just like whoosh and morph up, you know. It was just kind of interesting that they kind of brought some of those ideals about snakes at least over.
They have a lot of source material they could go through, because I think there were a bunch of those stories. Which is cool. I like that. Like, one of the parts, like, I know you haven't watched Game of Thrones, but that world is so detailed, and there's so much backstory involved in it, and every little thing means something. But, like, that guy has fleshed out every little piece of this world that he's created, and I think that Conan, in a way, kind of had already had that, too. And that's one of the things that kind of sucks about everything that came after it, that tried to copy it, was, they didn't really have any source material to draw from other than copying things that have already been done. And they didn't know why those things were being done. They just saw, like, oh, here's a giant snake, so we'll have a giant spider in ours.
I
see. Like, no real reason behind anything, and a lot of the plots ended up being pretty similar.
But I felt like just even though, like, so James Earl Jones, Doom, he's talking to him. He says something like, my son, right? Or something, I made you, or something like that.
I think he calls him his son, like, in the priestly way.
Yeah, so it actually makes Conan kind of pause for a minute.
I think that was him beginning to work his hypnotist magic on him a little bit.
And then he just kind of just whoosh, and his head's gone. And it's like, in some ways...
That was his best defense. Because at the beginning, because it was weird seeing him take his mom out with a sword, and I'm like, I don't see James Earl Jones as a swordsman. That wasn't him in the Darth Vader suit either. So
yeah, I like I said, though, in a way, I was expecting this. I thought he was going to turn into, like I said, snake monster thing. So I thought there was going to be a big fight.
I'm thinking, well, the budget, like we said already, like, you know, it was a decent sized budget, but it wasn't big.
Yeah.
So they could probably only really afford the one scene with the giant snake, really.
Okay. Well, yeah, like I said, I just was thinking there was going to be more with that, because I was still kind of confused on what he actually was. Was he
a snake that turned into a man? Was he a man that turned into a snake?
Just
was
some weird thing?
Else?
Was it? I guess I was, because I knew a little bit of the cartoon and what it was doing. I wondered, did the cartoon, was it inspired from the movie? So I was waiting for that to happen, and it obviously didn't happen. But
if you're listening out there, tell us, what was James Earl Jones in this movie? Yeah, that takes us kind of towards ending the movie. So, I guess I'll go through some of, like, my thoughts on it, because I didn't really take notes on, like, stuff I noticed, like the nitpicks we usually do.
Okay.
I thought the music was terrific in this movie.
Okay.
The score. Did that pop out to you?
The part where I want to say it was the part where they're sneaking in for the last time, where they show, like, they're cutting open bodies and stuff and gutting them and whatever. There was the choir that specifically stood out to me, and that reminded me of something. I can't articulate what it is, but just...
The Omen.
Maybe. There was something that definitely reminded me of.
Yeah, I thought the score was pretty great throughout the whole movie. I enjoyed it a lot. The sets looked nice. It almost reminded me of the golden age of Hollywood when... well, maybe not quite the golden age, but, like, back to, like, the Charlton Heston movies, like the Ten Commandments and stuff. They'd build these giant, elaborate sets that looked nice. And on top of those sets being used, they blended in almost flawlessly with, like, the actual locations they were using. The locations all looked beautiful. This looked like a real world to me. I didn't feel like I was looking, like... You didn't notice tire tracks in the background. You didn't hear or see any airplanes or trains. There were no towns.
Yeah.
It looked like a real world that was really being lived in by these characters, and it all felt really nice.
This is probably one of the worst examples when you said something about, like, sets... and made to look like they're...
And no green screens. Oh my gosh, I'm so sick of green screens.
Blending into the background. People are probably going to cringe when I say this. Star Trek V.
Which is the one?
That's the one where they go to the godlike creature, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
At the beginning, when he's climbing the...
You said you liked that one? All the odd ones are supposed to be the good ones?
All the odd ones are supposed to be bad. All the evils are supposed to be good.
Yep.
Anyway, at the very beginning, that's the one where he's climbing El Capitan or whatever, the rock.
Is that its name?
I think it is, actually.
That's pretty funny, considering Q called Picard El Capitan all the time.
So basically, so what they did is they had the real mountain off in the distance, and they took this fake rock face, and it's actually in a parking lot. And the way they just lined it up with
what are you talking about right now? Oh, Star Trek.
In Star Trek V.
Yeah.
So when he's climbing a fake mountain, thing here, but they have it lined up
So
that when the camera's looking at it down the line,
they're using camera trick
to make it look like it's going right ahead with in line.
Forced perspective.
Yes,
that's what they call that. And so the real mountain is in the background, but it looks like it's a part of what he's doing.
It looks like it's just
That's also one of the tricks they use to like create giants without using CG.
Sure, but I'm sorry, you said something about just the sets. And
it
made me
just
think
like
of it.
just everything looked great in this. Some of the costumes were a tiny bit cheesy, but I mean that was just like the style. Like the silly helmets.
Oh.
They weren't as bad as I've seen in some other movies. Okay. But like everything for the most part looked really good in this movie and really believable. The costumes. They didn't look like, somebody just stitched together a potato sack.
So you said in the beginning we were talking about why did they come to
Conan's village.
Yes. You said they didn't swing it right away. I guess I didn't catch it.
The narrator kind of suggested that, who knows why they were there, and one of the ideas he had was it just for the steel, and then later on James Earl Jones says I needed steel for weapons.
Needed steel. Okay. Did they show them walk away with a bunch of medals?
I think they did.
Okay. All right. Very well. I did not catch that then.
Yep. So they were there to... Conan's village must have been really good with metalworking, so they came, took their stuff, and he needed those to...
But you see, that's the thing, okay? His dad was a blacksmith, right? Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you take the valuable people, the skilled
I'm not sure you would be able to tell who they are just by looking at them.
I guess, but, I don't know, I just feel like it's not the children, clearly, that they took away. Like, they don't have the skilled trade, so I don't know.
Also, who knows, maybe he considered them all sacrifices to his god, or...
Okay, I can understand that more, yeah. Final thoughts?
Well,
or do you have more?
Those are a lot of my final thoughts.
Oh,
I thought the acting was really good. I thought the chemistry with the crew was really good. Like you said, there isn't a lot of dialogue in this movie. I've seen movies with less.
Yeah.
But, I enjoy that. I think we've noted that recently, that a movie that doesn't need to say too much is one that can hold my interest.
Okay.
Some people may find it boring. But, an example for me, a more modern example, would be No Country for Old Men.
Right.
When Josh Brolin's in the desert and he finds the drug dealer that's kind of still alive.
Yeah.
He takes the stuff, the guy's asking for water, and then he goes home, doesn't really say much, laying in bed, and he's just thinking about that guy who all he wanted was some water, and he was dying. He's like, gosh, I gotta go take that guy some water now.
Yeah.
So he goes and he takes that guy some water. No talking. Guy's dead already. Boom. There's some headlights. People are there to get the drugs and money. Holy crap, what is he going to do? And there's nothing. Nobody's talking, but I'm glued and riveted to the screen. Or in a James Bond movie, when, I know they're older and sillier, but when he's sneaking around trying to figure out what the bad guy's up to, and, there's not usually a lot of talking in those scenes. I love that,
I do love elements in movies where they're sneaking around, like a lot of stealth elements.
When they were climbing the tower, I thought that was pretty cool. Did you notice that Arnold didn't even have a rope? He was just hand climbing it?
I remembered that his friend was free climbing it. I assumed he was taking the rope up because she was climbing a rope, and I thought he did too.
I think she was the only one that had the rope. Maybe I was wrong. Well, that made sense when I looked it up and they taught him how to be a climber and do all the jumps and stuff.
Yeah.
He really learned a lot from this movie. He actually said that this movie was God's gift to him because it really kickstarted his career. Like, he was already big into the bodybuilding.
Sure.
He had won one of the things,
Mr. Universe.
Something like that. And later on, after he had become an actor, he went back and did it, and he won again. And I guess it was somewhat controversial because people didn't know if he really deserved to win or if it was because he's a big celebrity now.
Okay.
But, he owes a lot to this movie, and he'll admit it and say it. And it's so weird that in a day where they're just, everything's franchised now, they're trying to create their cinematic universes and everything, that they're sitting on Conan, which made a ton of money in the 80s, and they're not gonna really do anything with it. I know that the remake didn't get a whole lot of attention.
I know, but you gotta think, in a way, Game of Thrones is kind of up that alley a little bit, right?
Yeah. Well, that goes more to my point then. We're living in a time where the fantasy and fairy tale stuff is kind of making a little bit of a comeback, even though it's more based on fairy tales for girls lately.
Well, okay, think about this. George Lucas wanted to do Flash Gordon, but they wouldn't give him the rights to do it. So then he decides to write his own space adventure, whatever, Star Wars. Then what do? Once Star Wars is a huge success, they try to, whoever owned the rights to Flash Gordon, I can't remember who it was, they decide, let's do a Flash Gordon movie. And it just didn't work. And even though Conan, you might be able to credit it for starting Well, maybe not starting.
It didn't start, but
started.
it was,
Okay, wrong word. But like,
it was one of the brighter moments in the history of fantasy film.
You almost wonder, like, would it work to do it again? To try to, when there's already things happening kind of in that vein a little bit?
Yes.
You think
I think so?
Okay.
I think if you put the time and effort into it, it's not an easy genre to do, I don't think.
I mean, you had Lord of the Rings, not entirely the same, but still...
Well, yeah, you can throw that in there. Well,
they're different still, I think.
They're within the same genre, just on different parts of the spectrum.
Sure. Okay.
It's got to be hard to do a fantasy movie because you're going to need special... And if you want to make it good, you're going to need at least some decent special effects. You're going to need the costumes and the sets and all that stuff. I know today they can green screen everything and CG everything, and, sometimes CG's okay. Most of the time, it's just annoying. I prefer practical stuff if they can get it. But, now would be a great time to release that. It kind of like with when they were going to make Friday the 13th, and there was a Friday the 13th in October, and the Friday the 13th video game just came out. What better time? All the other ones, even the new crappy one that they just made money. Like, why not? And they canceled it because some other stupid horror movie.
Oh, the remake they did?
They did like a remake of The Ring, a Japanese movie that I didn't even know they made a remake for it, and it didn't do that well. So they're like, well, screw Jason then. It doesn't make any sense. They could make tons of money, I think, with a Conan movie. There's no reason not to. And if you're going to have Arnold...
I'm disagreeing with you, per se. I'm just saying because there's other things out there right now.
Well, if you're going to have Arnold, you got to use him now. I mean...
Oh, I agree. Yeah, if they're going to do one with Arnold, they need to do it now.
Yeah, because he can only be in movies for so long before he's either too old or dead.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Watching this movie for the third time, like I said, I understood it a lot better. Mm-hmm. It seemed like I could follow it a little more, and I think it's a movie that's good for repeat viewing, but maybe not a lot. Like, you might watch your favorite movie, a handful of times a year. This one, I think, is good every few years or so.
Yeah, I can't see myself wanting to watch it.
But I was really impressed by it. I liked it a lot. I liked the world. I'd like to see more of it. Mm-hmm. I did see the sequel, and the sequel was more campy.
Okay.
I don't know what
I'm assuming more monsters and stuff.
Is
that the one with the mirrors?
I don't remember it that well. I remember that some of the characters came back, but they changed the actors. I remember that it was more cartoony and more seemed like it was targeting children. And I'm guessing by that point they had already started making Conan toys and comic books and cartoons. So they're like, all right, well, we'll make it more family friendly.
Okay.
So kids will go see it. We'll make more money with this movie. But I think they needed to kind of keep it the tone of the first one if they were going to really keep it successful. I don't understand because they said they had for 4 more sequels. That's 5 movies.
See, I didn't know that was a thing to sign on an actor for so many sequels at that time. Like, I know now they do it where, like, they had, Robert Downey Jr. had to appear in 4... I think it was...
it's common now, but back then...
Yeah, I never knew that was a thing back then.
Speaking of the sequels, so Red Sonja is also a character that lives in the same world that Conan does.
Oh, really? Because I know he's not Conan in that, though.
The movie that they made, because it's a comic book character.
Okay.
Another comic book character. Arnold comes back for the movie, set in the same world, but as a different character.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's in it that much.
Okay.
And then the main villain in the movie is actually Sandal Bergman.
Okay.
So she comes back, but she's also playing a different character. So it's almost in a way like it's connected, but it's not.
Yeah, that's strange. Because, like I said, when I saw that he was in it, I thought for sure this is a Conan spinoff, sort of. Like, more about her, but he's in it.
It got negative reviews. I don't know how it did at the box office. But I thought it was kind of weird when I was reading for Conan, reading some little tidbits, that they were talking about remaking Red Sonja. I guess maybe that was the plan for after Jason Momoa's Conan the Barbarian, which I would have liked to have seen a sequel to that as well. But I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. Like, I was really getting into it. I think, I play games like Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, all those games. I've always enjoyed that kind of fantasy style. Like, even The Legend of Zelda, I used to love just flipping through the instruction manual for it because it had the pictures. Yeah, it had all the artwork.
Yeah, I remember the map.
And I thought, like, it's so interesting to live in, like, this world where there's all these monsters and magic and, special items that you can use and going on adventures, saving
That was a hard
princesses, and
game.
all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I've always been kind of drawn to fantasy a little bit, and
Okay.
I don't feel like there's enough good movies in the fantasy genre, at least not modern ones.
No.
And I'd really like to see more Conan. I would give this old one a B+.
B+. Okay. I understand what you're saying. Like, they don't have to over-explain things, but I felt like they could have done a little more than this.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt there was a little too much happening and kind of just aimlessly, at least from my point of view. Maybe a few more times I'll get it. I think they kind of did the montage scenes a few too many times. I don't know. I do think they did a decent job portraying how powerful or influential Doom was. I thought that was good. I think the effects were pretty good for 82. You're trying to think of like what else came out in 82. Like, the biggest one in my head comes out is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Star Wars was fresh. There was more Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, but
When was the first Indiana Jones movie?
80. So yeah, I was surprised too because of with Commando and just early 80s movies. Typically, the hero doesn't get hurt and stuff, and I mean, crap, he gets killed and he's bloodied and he's outsmarted, and it just even showing him kind of childlike, like when he went into certain places and didn't know things. Like, that's a detail you'd think they would overlook, and I was actually kind of surprised that they show he goes into the town with his friend and he's like, well, what is this? And this tastes good. He's eating something, some kebab or something, I don't know, whatever it was, something he I just thought that was a nice touch.
Little bits of humor. Like, there wasn't overdone humor or too stupid humor, like when he passes out in his soup. Well, they had been drinking. So, I mean, that was funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But
all that to say, I didn't quite enjoy it as much as you. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I've seen the movie.
A few years down the line, do you think you'd flip it on again?
Yeah, I mean, a couple years from now, I might give it another shot. But right now, I think I would give it maybe a D+.
Oh, a D+?
Yeah. It was a little bit of a chore to watch. Again, I'm not going to say it was
like I said, the first couple times I watched it, like I didn't know exactly what was going on.
And I think the biggest thing for me is just because there was so much just
a lot to take in.
Just they're doing stuff.
It's very visual.
No one's
movie.
talking to each other.
It's very visual storytelling.
And then eventually the narrator comes and it tells you something, but then like they're just doing stuff, and I'm thinking, okay. And then just how everyone he meets, he's best friends with, and they just team up for, like, you think, okay, maybe if the girl was you find out they were gonna sacrifice her to the snake and he rescued her, then I can understand, okay, she's now gonna team up with him to help him get into the thing. That would make sense. But just literally she comes out of the shadows.
Doesn't that seem a little too cookie cutter though?
Maybe, but what I'm getting at is she was in a position where she could got the jump on them. I said this already, I know I did, I'm sorry. But what I'm getting at is she had no idea who these guys were. For all she knew, they could have been henchmen of Doom's. But she coming out, it was a 2 against 1 thing, and I was thinking, like, it just seemed too simple that she is going to be, like, I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm not explaining it very well, but, like...
Well, hold on, let me ask you a question. Put yourself in her shoes.
Okay.
You're this, this strong woman doing what you want in a dangerous world.
Okay.
And you see Arnold. Here he comes.
What I'm getting at, though, is I just feel like it was just showing way too quickly that they're going to be all together. And I just didn't feel like they did a good job with that. And especially when he meets this, like, again, with the first guy, he rescued him. Okay, makes sense. But for all we knew, the first guy that was chained up behind the witch's house, she might have done the same thing to him, only...
I laughed out loud at that scene, by the way.
It was a ridiculous scene. But especially when he gets to the third person he meets, the guy in the hut, whatever his name was...
Jabba.
And he just, like, comes out, and he's, like, yelling or threatening him, and then they just start laughing at each other, and I was just like, what is happening here? I don't know. It was just a little... goofy.
Instant friendship. They were testing each other, and they both just thought it was funny.
I guess so. But anyway, I don't know. So just some of that
stuff.
That
kind of remind me like you're playing a video game. It's like so and so joins the party. Da 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 da.
Sure.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know you're talking about RPGs, but I don't really play them.
What's an RPG?
Shut up. Anyway.
So you want to watch the second one? You know we're gonna have to now.
Oh yeah, I'll watch the second one.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much always willing to give anything a try.
So down the road, we've got some other stuff that we started that we need to like do another part of, like Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
But fantasy...
Star Wars. Crap. We've only done the first Star Wars.
I haven't done any Star Wars.
Yeah, you weren't even there for it.
But yeah, fantasy is one of those genres where we were kind of lamenting the fact that we didn't done too much on the podcast.
In fact, I think the only thing we got under our belts is Neverending Story. Is really the only other fantasy movie we've done thus far.
Unless you want to count superhero movies as fantasy.
See, I feel they're more sci-fi usually. But...
Technically, Superman is listed under fantasy.
Yeah, okay. Well,
but they're their own genre, especially now.
Yeah.
Bless you. So, yeah, it's good that we got another one knocked out of the way. There's a few other ones I want to do. The Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Legend.
Oh, what was that one I was talking to you about wanting to do?
Kroll?
Yeah, that one we could do too. But
what's the one with Reb Brown that you said? He's like a caveman, but there's UFOs and stuff.
Oh!
Yor,
the Hunter from the Future, yes.
I have it now, so we're going to have to watch it at some point.
Yeah.
Dragon
Slayer.
We would really appreciate any fantasy suggestions you have out there, like maybe outside of the ones we just mentioned. So if anybody is still listening to this point, please drop a comment with any fantasy movie you'd like us to watch. We're always open to suggestions and requests. You can contact us either by commenting on our YouTube page, our Facebook page, or sending us an email. We have links available at all of our sites. Would you like to say our email address in Arnold, doing your Arnold impression?
No, I'll leave that up to you. Go ahead. It's all you.
Go to the Escape Podcast. Aye, aye. You can do it once you get into the chopper. That's actually better than I normally do, and I suck. So that's embarrassing. So we're gonna keep that in, of course. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here?
No, I can't think of anything. Appreciate anyone listening and share us around. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, we enjoy being shared.
Like a wife swap party or
what? Anyway, so that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. We will catch you on the next episode soon. We already have it planned out.
Yes.
Hasta la vista.
Wrong movie.
Sayonara.
Much better. I was again.
Wait a minute.
Well done.